Okay.
Go.
Hi, I'm Waleed Abdalati, host of The Crowd in the Cloud, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this live hangout on the very first Citizen Science Day. We hope to speak to some pretty excited citizen scientists across America, and if all goes well, even around the world. Hello, Spain and Australia. Now, I'm a former NASA chief scientist, and I work with satellites and supercomputers, but I think citizen science and crowdsourcing are really a revolutionary new approach to understanding and even protecting and improving our world. I hope you agree. Now over to my co-host in Washington, D.C., Darlene Cavalier of SciStarter. It looks pretty lively over there, Darlene.
Oh, hey, Joan. It's Darlene Cavalier, founder of SciStarter, and I am live with Joan Ferrini-Mundy from the National Science Foundation. We are on the floor of the USA Science and Engineering Festival, where an anticipated 200,000 to 300,000 people will be coming to learn things like citizen science. Hey, Joan, it's very nice for you to join us here today. I want to apologize if you hear a little chaos and a lot of noise back there. It's bound to happen. Joan is with the National Science Foundation and Assistant Director. The NSF has been a leader in supporting what we call public participation in scientific research and citizen science in particular. Joan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Darlene. It's great to be here. So exciting to see all these young people and their families interested in science. I can say a little bit more about what the National Science Foundation does.
Let's do it. Go ahead, bring it up.
We are a federal agency that funds the very best ideas that come from scientists all over the country. And one major focus for us is public participation in scientific research, another name for citizen science. And we fund that, number one, because think about the reach that scientists can have when they involve the public. Imagine a scientist who can have thousands and hundreds of thousands of people helping gather their data, helping them collect what they need to know to move their science forward. And also at the same time, think about how wonderful it is for kids to be able to get a chance to be doing science with real-life scientists in all kinds of topics, all kinds of areas. So we love this domain.
The field is lucky to have your support as well. So I think what we're doing here is doing some live shots from our booth here. So SciStarter, which is a website that makes it easier for people to find these opportunities to get involved in citizen science, have a number of partners here today at the USA Science and Engineering Festival, one of them being Crowd and Cloud, of course. And we also have a number of citizen science projects, local volunteers involved in these projects coming out to talk to all these people about ways they can engage in citizen science. So if I'm not mistaken, we might have our camera working down the halls here so you can get a look at some of the projects, including We Cure ALZ. This is a crowdsourcing project to help accelerate discovery with Alzheimer's research. We have something called Zombies. This is a project from the University of California, San Francisco, where they invite people to look for bees that are acting a little crazy, maybe acting more like a moth hanging around light at night alone. We're giving away tubes so people can collect these crazy-looking bees and then observe them. And over time, you may see actual zombies or flies emerge from these bees. So this is another citizen science project that we're promoting down here, and many, many others. And in case you're wondering what is behind Joan with these women with the pom-poms and the blue jackets here, they're actually part of our exhibit too. They are called the Science Cheerleaders. These are current and NFL and college cheerleaders who are all scientists and engineers too. So part of their job here is to recruit people for these citizen science projects too. So as you can see, citizen science really runs from A to Z. We have astronomy, lots of astronomy projects, and we have zoology, and we have the zombies as well. Back to you, Waleed.
All right, thanks, Darlene. So today's really our first live hangout, which is really the beginning of a year of monthly online interactions. In March and April 2017, we'll be on public TV stations throughout America, streaming online anytime, anywhere. We'll be sharing stories about some amazing projects and people, and some of them, technology willing, are going to be participating today. I think we have Ulyana here. Ulyana?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so Ulyana is...
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ulyana, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so Ulyana is joining us from the northern parts of the world, up in the Canadian Arctic right now on Baffin Bay, or Baffin Island, excuse me, and still heading further north. So, Ulyana, what are you doing up in northern Canada, up in Iqaluit?
Yeah, so I apologize, it's cut out because we're in the middle of a snowstorm here, so the connectivity's tough. But there's a group of 3 of us who are studying how the snow and ice is changing in the northern parts of the world here, the Arctic, and we're looking at impacts of wildfire and pollution, and then we're going to be doing some ground truth to see how one of these satellites is doing as far as measuring the albedo, or the reflections of that snow and ice. So a big ground truth campaign here with another scientist who works with atmospherics and a citizen scientist who has an engineering background who's very interested in working with us.
So what is the citizen scientist's role in this particular activity?
So actually, we've been flying from Boulder, Colorado to 210. So that's the adventure part of it. We also are minimizing our carbon footprint, and he's taken on the expedition lead to really managing the traverse of this ice cap, because he's actually an endurance athlete as well.
Okay, great. And I will say, having been there myself, anyone who sees it falls in love with it and comes to really appreciate it. So I appreciate the engagement. I think, do we have Angel and Mario?
Yes.
Yes.
Good to
How
see
you guys
you.
doing?
So you are with the oldest citizen science program, the Audubon Christmas Bird Count. Can you tell us just a little bit about what you do and why you do it?
So the Christmas bird count kind of started off as people would go out and hunt on this specific day, and they would see how many birds they could kill, unfortunately. But around the time of the turn of the century, Fred Chapman started to change everybody's mind and decided that instead of going out to shoot and hunt these birds, we should be going out to count these birds, and to bring more eyes to conservation that these birds need. They need us. If we're able to survive in this world, they're having to adapt to so rapidly because we're changing so rapidly. So basically, the citizen science program, the project's been going on for over 100 years, and people all over the United States go out and count birds on specific days to their area, and these numbers all get sent to the Audubon Society, which then the data gets turned into basically looking at trends and winter population trends in North America of our North American bird species.
So I think we'll probably come back and hear more about that in a bit, but suffice to say, you're not just good citizen scientists, you're good citizens. I'm sure the birds appreciate being counted as opposed to the alternative. Now we have Tyler Cyronak and Smartfin, one of the newest citizen science projects. Tyler is out in La Jolla, California. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Waleed.
Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, I'm a postdoctoral scientist at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and I work in the Anderson lab. So what we work on is measuring the carbonate chemistry, so looking at the carbon in coral reefs and other environments in the ocean. But the project we're talking about today, Smartfin, is attempting to tap into the surfing community here and get them to collect data for us in nearshore environments, which is really sort of a difficult place for us to collect data because it's very lots of turbulence due to waves and lots of energy there. So this is hoping to take people who are out there anyway and use them to collect more data for us.
And I guess I take it there are many, many surfers out there. If you can tap into that network, you have a tremendous amount of data.
Oh yeah, there's tons of surfers out here. At any given spot, you can have hundreds of people out there on a very nice sunny day like today. And surfers tend to want to conserve where they are. They want to surf in nice, clean beaches, not places that are full of trash or anything else. So they are very connected to the environment, and we're hoping to tap into that connection and get people excited about understanding the chemistry of the ocean.
Great, and I think tapping into that enthusiasm and connection can be really powerful. So these are people engaged in the collection of data, the participation in citizen science. Citizen science is also about so much more. It's about communities using the data to help solve problems. And that's one example of that is the West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project. Ben Beveridge and Cassandra Martin, can you see and hear us okay? West Oakland. I think you're muted. I think we got a mute. No Ben or Cassandra? All right, we'll chime in if you join us later. Let's see, moving forward. So we'll hear a little more about these projects and hopefully something about West Oakland Indicators Project a little bit later in the hour. But if anyone's looking and listening has questions as we proceed, please tweet them using hashtag CrowdCloudLive. That's CrowdCloudLive. And back to you, Darlene.
We lost sound from West Oakland, so back to you and Joan for the first interaction.
Okay, great. So we're back to us, Joan. We love all these surprises. This is wonderful. So from feathers to fins, we can see that one of the new projects is Smartfin that you just learned about. And one of the oldest projects is the Christmas bird count. The National Science Foundation's support in ornithology, in particular through the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, has really made it possible for generations of people to participate in this line of research. Joan, can you tell us a little bit more about how this support in this field in particular has led people to really understand that citizen science is serious science?
Sure. The many grants we've made to Cornell's Lab of Ornithology for citizen science projects like Celebrate Urban Birds and Nest Watch, and the grants we've made to evaluate their impact have really taught us a lot about how mainstream science can really involve the public in important ways. These projects aren't just about birds. The eBird network leverages what people and computers can do together to improve the work of one another. For NSF, this project was just as much about being able to model through computing what we can learn from the observations about birds. The humans focus on finding and identifying the birds, and then the computer models take a look at those data and look at weather and location. They kind of send feedback out to people when people may have identified, when we have outlying data. And then they can use statistical models to take a look at bird presence and growth of the population. So these kinds of citizen science databases really let computer scientists and modelers develop brand new science as a result. Excuse me. And the people learn a lot too. They learn about how science gets done, about how carefully you need to observe to get good data. And they learn a lot about birds. I can say that myself as a birder. It's just a terrific way to enrich your own understanding of the world around you. Many of you may know about the example when citizen scientists began to notice that house finches around the D.C. area had red, puffy, runny eyes. And it turned out that those observations led the scientists to be able to understand that disease, how to stop its spread, and how to monitor it. So these are really important contributions to science.
Thank you, Joan. I'm going to let you take some water.
Thank you.
So eBird in particular is a great example of how citizen science can really fuel an entire field. We have something along the lines of 22 million hours of observational time already submitted by the citizen scientists, and that equates to more than 2,500 years of data. So, Joan, if you feel okay, enough water there?
Good.
All right,
Yep.
good. We're going to move into a little bit of a different track, which is still related to citizen science. Sometimes we call it a close cousin to citizen science, and this would be more about the makers, the do-it-yourself community. Sometimes these are people who are actually developing the tools that are needed for some of these projects to really accelerate. That, coupled with things like community science, seems to be a really fascinating area that the National Science Foundation has suggested they will be supporting more and more.
Absolutely. We find it really exciting and have been involved in a number of White House events, the White House Maker Fair, the White House Science Fair, the DIY movement in general. And so we put a call out for proposals about making a few months ago, and we hope to announce some winners soon. But we see this potential as a way to really interest people who might not have thought science was for them, but who have really great ideas about tools or devices or clever ways of moving science forward. So we're all about seeing what the public and what particularly young people have as ideas in this domain and what they can bring to us so that we can move it forward.
I have to say, I was very excited to see that as well, because sometimes what we can see from the SciStarter database would be a lack of awareness on the part of the project owners that certain tools do exist for them. So we're really happy to see you start to bridge these two communities, and we think it's going to solve a lot of problems moving forward too.
Good.
Joan, thank you for joining us here today. We're going to start taking some Twitter and Facebook questions. Please send them in, and I hope you come join us later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joan. Take care. It might be back to Waleed, or are we taking some questions from social media now?
Well, I actually have a question for Joan if she's still available.
Yes, she is.
Okay, good. So one of the things that I got exposure to in the filming for The Crowd in the Cloud, and I was aware of, but I spent a lot more time digging in, was CocoRoz.
Right.
So Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, Snow Network.
Yeah.
You know, and what struck me about that was a person could go from making a measurement in his or her backyard, report the data, and this could directly feed into severe storm forecast warnings or flood warnings or whatnot. And it was incredibly remarkable, really. And I know NSF supports the basic research and how we understand things, but always with an eye toward eventually this is going to directly impact the lives of individuals. What are your thoughts on CocoRoz in particular?
So CocoRoz is an amazing project that is really bringing together people from all different kinds of parts of the country, particularly where we may not have as many sensors and as many ways of gathering data. And this precipitation data collection is actually feeding into important models that help us, as you say, understand the ways in which weather and floods can be better predicted and understood. And so it's critical to actually getting the science done. But we're all benefiting. It moves beyond the basic science and helps us with agriculture, with disaster planning, with risk and resilience issues, and even with daily forecasts. It's also a very inviting way for young people to start to dip their toe into science and to get a chance to be a part of something much bigger. We like the opportunity to fund these sorts of occasions because they lead us to great science.
Yeah, I agree. It really is quite fascinating. Not just great science, but great value.
Yes.
And that's individuals making these measurements. But I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I've got a government official here. And the last question I have is, so last September I was invited to the White House for an event on citizen science and crowdsourcing. That certainly indicated to me how seriously citizen science is being taken as a real element of the scientific enterprise at the very highest levels of our government. What are you seeing in government action that is supportive of this, or that we may take some encouragement from with respect to the high-level endorsement of citizen science activity?
There's a lot to say about that, Waleed. I wanted to just take a brief moment to introduce my colleague, Sophia Liu, who works at USGS. She's the citizen science lead there. And we have so much going on across government. There's something called citizenscience.gov, where folks can find out about opportunities. Several of our agencies are working together to create different kinds of tools and resources so that the public can find out what's available and be involved. Also, just tell you briefly that my boss, Dr. France Cordova, the head of the National Science Foundation, who's an astrophysicist, actually was able to get her dissertation done because a local citizen scientist, an amateur astronomer in Arizona, spotted something, called her up to let her know about this visible outburst from a binary star, and it turned out to enable her to detect rapid X-ray pulsation. So we have a lot of commitment at our agency, starting at the very top, to this idea that we can partner across government and enrich the reach of science, as well as inspire people to get involved in this very important part of what we do.
I agree, and I know there's commitment at NASA, USGS, NOAA, and other federal agencies as well. It's great to see. Well, thank you. We're going to be back with you in a little bit, but I wanted to reconnect with a few of the others who've joined us. I don't know if Mario and Ankal are still with us. Are you? It doesn't look it, but if they come back, I'm going to invite anyone who sees them pop up on the screen to have them chime in. And now I'm going to get back to Tyler Cyronak. Smartfin, I think anyone can get excited about the idea because surfing is, you're outdoors, you can smell and feel and breathe the air, you can feel the water, it's powerful on all the senses. And I think there's an opportunity there, as you've identified, to take advantage of the enthusiasm that surrounds it. So you told us a little bit about Smartfin, but is there any more you want to elaborate before I get into the questions?
Yeah, I can actually tell you exactly what we're doing with the fin. So this is a Smartfin right here. I think hopefully this is showing up well. But what we're trying to do is use this to measure temperature in the ocean. So we have a temperature sensor right there in the fin, and this thing will wirelessly connect to your through Bluetooth to your phone, and it can upload the data to a server. So we can actually have someone who went and surfed that morning upload the data that afternoon, and then we can have the data and look at what the temperature of the ocean where they surfed that day was.
Fascinating. So what gaps to the sort of professional observations do you think Smartfin is able to fill?
So measuring things in the coastal ocean are very difficult for a few reasons. One is putting a sensor out there is hard because there's a lot of movement of water through waves and currents. So having something that doesn't get buried in the sand or having something that you can put on a pier limits where you can put it. So this can expand the sort of spatial range of where we can put sensors to measure ocean chemistry. And it'll also expand the sort of environments we can put them in, where we could put them in places right in a wave, actually, that, you know, wouldn't be able to be reached by normal sensors that we have now.
Great. So how does this compare in size and cost to what the pros use?
Well, so something like this fin I have here, which is designed to measure temperature, I think would be about $100 to $150. So you can buy similar temperature sensors for probably anywhere ranging from $50 up to thousands of dollars, depending on how accurate and precise you want to get.
So that's an important point, accuracy and precision. How do the accuracy and precision compare to what professionals use?
Well, so we're in the middle of testing these fins right now, and actually I just ran a test yesterday and looked at the data because we just got these new temperature sensors, and they look very, very good. So they're measuring within 0.1 degrees Celsius, and that's comparable pretty well to what we need to use to get good data out in the ocean.
Great, and I think that's just amplified by the fact you can go to places that others can't get to. So it's far better than no data.
Yes, exactly.
So I understand Andy Stern and colleagues in the Lost Bird Project don't necessarily want to sell these fins like some really cool new gadget. How do they hope to distribute them around the world? How do they hope to get broader use of this capability?
Yeah, so Andy Stern's really the brainchild of this project, and I think his idea is to get it out to communities and build from there. So start in San Diego and have as many people as we can use it here in the surf community, and then hopefully it'll be sort of picked up, and then we can send them out to other surf communities and sort of get the data and see how it goes and see how it expands.
So in your wildest dreams, what do you hope to see?
Maybe Kelly Slater riding one of these.
Great. Well, I have to say I'm envious of you because it's probably beautiful there and you're probably headed to the beach and I'm looking at a snowstorm out my window. But I really appreciate your sharing this with us, and it's really cool stuff. Look forward to watching it progress. So back to you, Darlene.
Okay, good. Just perfect timing, too, because we're about to take some of these questions coming in from social media. Here's one. And I'm going to toss this to Joan as well. So this is, how did lay citizens become involved in the production of scientific knowledge?
What a great question. Makes me wish I were a historian of science. I don't know all the details. I certainly do know, though, that we're experiencing a period of rapid change and growth what's possible in citizen science right now. We do know the examples from the bird count that go back quite a long time and had a beginning that apparently wasn't so happy, but now it's a very productive, happy kind of area. But the rapid change that's possible now has to do with technology, ubiquity of technology, and the ways in which data can now just be shared instantly. So it really, I think, opens up more inclusion, more access for many more people to be able to be a part of projects ranging from projects that are defined by practicing scientists to projects that are defined by communities. We didn't hear about the West Oakland work, but that is one where the community has noticed some issues that it wanted to examine and is trying to figure out how to gather the data that would help them better understand the situation. So I think now citizen science is broadening and going well beyond using the public as people to help with the data, but using the public to help frame the question sometimes, to help conduct some of the actual scientific experimentation, and to be a part of interpreting the results. Very interesting time for this domain.
Yeah, I really see some great examples of how scientists are helping to empower these communities, right? So communities that maybe in the past had concerns but weren't able to articulate their research question. They didn't have access to the tools to be able to really gather data in a way that mattered and that would make a difference. And I even see some support now in terms of linking that to policy considerations. So this sort of end-to-end service that we see that's really driven largely, not entirely exclusively by citizen science, but certainly very, very much an important role there with citizen science. I'm not sure I understand this question entirely, but it asks, is citizen science a tipping point technology?
So I'm not sure I do either, but I do think we're facing this moment of rapid acceleration. Rapid new capacity is available for the citizen science and public participation in science world. And I have a colleague at the National Science Foundation who talks about inadvertent citizen science, because now with sensors everywhere, with our wristbands and our cars gathering data, in a sense the public is contributing information in a whole host of ways. So maybe a tipping point technology, and it brings with it all the interesting challenges that come with new technologies, questions about privacy and quality of the data, and the ways in which we can all benefit and have access to what's being learned. So great question. We'll have to watch and see.
That's a great answer, too. Is it back to Waleed?
I'm not sure who it's back to, but I'm happy to take it from here. We're still, I'm not sure if we've got the West Oakland crowd with us. It doesn't look like it, but I will say that maybe not Oakland, but I know we've got somebody joining us from Brisbane, Australia. So I'm gonna sort of go off script a little bit and go to it's Jessica Bowden, right? Is that correct?
No, Jessie Cappadonna. Yep.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Jessie Cappadonna. I apologize. With the Australian Citizen Science Association. Can you tell us, so I'm going to another part of the world, can you tell us what activities you're involved in and what's going on in Australia?
Well, there are a lot of things going on in Australia. I've been working for over 2 years to sort of try and get at that question and trying to find projects across the nation, because a lot of the times they're not identified yet as citizen science, but when you look at what citizen science is and what the people are doing, it very much is. So I found nearly 300 projects so far, and I suspect I've only scratched the surface, but in terms of what I do and how I relate to citizen science, I am working on a PhD looking at how to design citizen science with the citizens included in that design process with bioacoustics, so studying animal sounds. So I can give you more details if you like.
Yeah, well, just tell me, how is it being used?
Well, so I can give you a case study from my PhD work. There's this little cute bird that's a cryptic species that likes to hide in the heathlands and woodlands, and it's very difficult to find. And they've been surveying for it, and citizens have been going out searching for it and for a long time and haven't.
Sorry, it looks like she dropped off.
Uh-oh.
Jessie, are you back?
Oh,
okay.
Yep. Okay. Sorry about that drop.
That's okay.
Anyway, they have a detector dog actually helping to find this particular species of bird. She's been trained to find this bird. And I have been putting out acoustic monitors where she has indicated picking up the scent of this bird. So then what I hope to do is have citizens help look through that acoustic data and try to find out if we've captured the sweet serenades of this bird, because we don't necessarily see it when the dog indicates it being around. So we're trying to find this bird. There's a northern population in my region, and they really don't know how many are out there, but there could be as few as 10. So we really need to find them to preserve them and protect them.
And I imagine you appreciate having the support of others and not having to go through all that yourself.
It would take me 4 years to go through the 13,000 hours of data I have.
So I appreciate you sharing that with us, and it looks like there's a lot of activity in Australia. I think a little bit later on we'll talk to a colleague in Spain. But for now, I'm going to turn it back to you, Darlene. It looks like you've got Becky Lang with you. Did I see that correctly?
Yep. Can you all hear me okay?
It's fine.
Okay, good. Thanks, Waleed. Thanks, Jessie. Nice to see you. Jessie, you may have answered this already, but what time is it over there?
Oh, right now it's 3:31 a.m.
Tomorrow.
Bright and early. I had my coffee before we started. Yes.
Well, you're good.
Exactly. It's Sunday.
Okay. Thanks, Jessie. Take care.
So Waleed's probably going to throw back to you.
Yep, Waleed already did. I'm on, I think. Okay, thanks, Jeff. I'm here with Becky Lang, the editor-in-chief of Discover Magazine. Discover Magazine is a very large general interest science magazine, and I'm going to let Becky tell you a little bit about their connection to citizen science through SciStarter in particular. Becky, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And Darlene and her SciStarter group have been quite instrumental in gathering together all of these citizen science projects. And DiscoverMagazine.com has hosted a blog of SciStarter so that our readers can come to our website and they may not even know about citizen science. And then they can discover some of these really cool projects going on out there. And they can be armchair scientists. I mean, they may not have a science degree, but they have a strong interest in it, and they can dive in and help collect all of this data that would be just impossible for some of these scientists to collect on their own. We're happy to be part of that.
Yeah, we're thrilled to partner up with Discover Magazine, too, for all the reasons that you just mentioned. SciStarter may never be a destination site where people, the type of people that we really want to reach, may not know of this term citizen science. But they might be on Discover's website reading about a topic that's of interest to them. Maybe it's birding, maybe it's surfing, maybe it's something else. And then what we're able to do is serve up opportunities for them to engage in related topics right when they have it. So we're really very grateful for this partnership that we have here. So maybe we can discuss a little bit about the types of projects that seem to catch on with your online community.
Pretty much any project about dogs is really high and really popular. It's obviously people are interested in their pets and what's going on in their pets' minds, and does my cat really love me or not? I don't, so there's several projects related to pets that are very popular. And then astronomy is an automatic one. We have a lot of observers who cross between DiscoverMagazine.com and astronomy, and those two areas seem to be very hot.
And just to clarify for people that you have the same owner, Astronomy Magazine and Discover Magazine are published by the same company. And years ago, they also published Birdwatching Magazine. We almost had a trifecta among the big areas with citizen science too. So I'm also not surprised that your audience loves pet projects, because we see that with SciStarter as well. Almost everybody has a pet, and the idea of being able to contribute to research and kind of support a creature that you love at the same time, not all that surprising. And while I have everybody's attention, someday in August, and I feel like it's August 5th or so, is National Dog Day, and so you will see a nice little aggregated opportunity to get involved in at least 5 citizen science projects related to dogs there.
Yeah.
Becky, we're going to move on a little bit, again, with the close cousin, as I call it, of citizen science, and looking at this do-it-yourself, the maker community, and so forth. We are starting to see more and more of these opportunities for people to be involved in developing and designing the tools and instruments that are needed to get involved in some of these projects. That particular activity tends to skew a little bit younger than what you might see with your typical bird watcher or somebody who's out there monitoring the quality of water, for example. Can you tell us a little bit about how that bodes well for the Discover Magazine audience?
Sure. Yes, we have a very popular website, discovermagazine.com, and we've seen a huge lift in traffic, particularly through Facebook. We have more than 4 million followers on Facebook, and that's drawn us to between 3 and 4 million unique views each month. And so we've just seen our traffic online steadily increase, and a lot of that is among younger people who are, like I said, they might be quote-unquote armchair scientists, and they have a strong interest in science. And I think science is hip again. I mean, I just get that feeling, and we're really seeing that with our online audience. Because that's where citizen science just completely melds with what we're doing on our website and the types of things that people are interested in, and they can get involved and they can be part of this, and it's, you know, it's not going to take over their entire life. It might chew up a few weekends, but, you know, that, like I said, that gives scientists who are working on these really important projects this really valuable data that then they can go and crunch, and then will lead to some of the research, and then just it'll like science is a continuum, so it'll lead to more and more and more research. Those people are a key part of that.
And just on a practical note, the way that this partnership works, you have a project, you register it in SciStarter. By the way, we have more than 1,500 active citizen science projects and activities now, which we call events. Several of them are being celebrated today on Citizen Science Day. So you add your project to SciStarter, and then we have APIs where we serve them up on discovermagazine.com, PBS, and other places. And this is how we hope this whole enthusiasm around citizen science to make it possible for lots and lots of people to find these opportunities to engage as well.
Yeah.
Right, Becky, any closing words?
No, I just being at this part of this Google Hangout is just great, and being at the Science Festival is fantastic. So I just, it's wonderful that so many people are pumped up about science, and it's great.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Becky. Back to you, Waleed.
All right, thanks. So I appreciate hearing that.
Here we are.
The last person I spoke to was back up to so Ulyana up in the Canadian Arctic. I understand you're off in the fall soon. Can you tell us that project and the citizen science?
Sure, can you?
Ulyana, can you hear us?
You're okay? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'll be going to Nepal to be working with continued work. It's kind of funny, but it's in my postdoc, and it's called the Sherpa Scientist Initiative. So it's all about empowering locals to do work on glacial lake flooding hazards in Nepal. We have a bunch of citizens coming along with us, so we're really, really excited for that project. And that will be happening in May 20th, so June 12th.
Fabulous. So this is all over the world. It's really wonderful to see. I think, has West Oakland joined us? Are you with us in West Oakland?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Sorry we weren't able to connect with you a little bit earlier.
All right.
Brian and Cassandra, right?
I feel a little like Barry Manilow, because this time we made it, you know? That's probably an old reference for most of the audience, but
sadly I understand it. So I'm going to take advantage of having you here, and then I realize, Darlene, we've got Korey Haynes from Astronomy Magazine standing by. I want to get a little bit on the West Oakland project. So Brian and Cassandra, can you tell us a little bit about the project and how it came to be?
We lost you a little bit. Can you repeat that question?
So can you tell us a little bit about the West Oakland project and how it came to be?
Sure. We started a few years ago in partnership with Intel, working on what we call personal air monitoring. We developed a backpack particulate matter sensing device, and we teach people to carry it around the community, and then we map that data to get a sense of what we breathe right on the ground level. See if that's any different than what the air regulators get from their big towers they have every few miles. Because our theory is, and most of the data points to it, that the air is different on the ground. The air we're breathing is different at ground level, and we want to know more about that.
And was it different?
It appears to be different. As all the researchers told us, it is difficult to measure air quality at ground level because there's wind currents and structures, all sorts of things affect it, and so that it's really a whole new area of air research to figure out what dispersion patterns look like and how structures and natural elements like trees and things like that really affect air quality. It's really, what we're really doing is gaining a much more granular perspective, as the researchers call it, a much finer grained perspective on air quality to see whether it makes a difference whether you live on the street corner or you live in the middle of the block or your kid's daycare center is near the roadway or further away. We think this is probably the next level of understanding of our built environment. That's one of the place where we work is where humans affect the natural environment, and then the natural environment comes back to affect us. So we're trying to figure out some more of that. We have a new project we're doing where we're working with some partners to put 100 monitors across the neighborhood, which will be one of the finest grained air quality monitoring projects that's been done to date using much cheaper sensors to look at black carbon.
So it's wonderful work, and I think it's I have to believe it's making a difference. I'm curious, Cassandra, what difference do you think this project is making or has made or will make for the community?
We're expecting to be able to do a different kind of advocacy using this data when we can, and this advocacy will move from pure air quality advocacy to land use policy. We don't think it's a good idea in today's world to build housing right next to freeways, but that's where the land is available. So we think that land use folks will finally become environmental advocates if they become constrained in how they can use the land. So we think it might affect the entire marketplace and add a lot more allies to our environmental work.
So I'm curious. This is directly for you, Cassandra. You started as a concerned mom, and now you're somewhat of an expert on toxins. What's that felt like personally to you, the things you've learned? How has that felt? What has been your experience?
It actually felt great because the first year that I started doing my walks, I ended up getting asthma. And the importance to me about that is myself and all three of my kids have asthma. And that's where I come in at.
All right. Well, it sounds like the experience of just diving in has really paid off, not just for you.
It really has.
We're very proud of Cassandra. She's an example of how we don't have to be expert scientists. I'm not either. But she just stepped in and started learning, and now she teaches other residents and students how to gather air quality data.
So there's a great power to discovery there. I think we're going to need to move back to Darlene, who's standing by with Korey and Haynes from Astronomy Magazine.
Exactly. Yes. You're stepping on my lines, Waleed.
Oh, sorry.
Here I am with Korey Haynes from Astronomy Magazine. Welcome, Korey. Thanks for joining us. Yes, your connections to citizen science?
Yeah, so as part of Astronomy Magazine, almost everyone with a telescope is sort of doing citizen science on their own. They're already out investigating the world. And I think that's awesome. Some of the groups like the American Association of Variable Star Observers, the AVSO, they've been doing citizen science for decades, last century. So astronomy and citizen science really pair very well together. And there's a lot of modern ways to get involved in citizen science as well with astronomy.
Do you have a particular favorite project that you're involved in yourself?
I don't have, well, I have some that I've played around with. I have a lot of favorites that I like to share with people. Galaxy Zoo has kicked off sort of a whole modern kind of citizen science where you can go and sort through pictures of galaxies and help scientists sort them and figure out more about them. And it's in its 4th iteration because people were so excited about it. They keep answering the questions scientists want to know. And there's always more to know. So they go through and they add more data and they ask more questions. And there's been a whole lot of related projects like that. Galaxy is certainly one of my favorites.
Great. I did not get a chance to ask Becky this. Did you find that do you feel like the term citizen science is becoming more mainstream with your readers?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think, like I said, so many amateur observers just already do it that I don't know if all of them do think of themselves as citizen scientists. I think they are, and I'm really excited to share that. But I think there's also 2 different worlds of astronomy. There's the observing side and the science side, and I think the great thing about citizen science that it together. And that's something we're really big about in astronomy, is tying those 2 different sides of astronomy to the community.
Yeah. We see this just a little bit here at these types of live events, like at the USA Science and Engineering Festival, where somebody will come up and say, what's citizen science? And then we'll get into some of the examples, and they may say, oh, well, I'm a citizen scientist. I'm already doing that. So what you said is not uncommon as well.
Yeah.
People are already doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how is it that, you want to explain a little bit about the SciStarter Astronomy Partnership?
Right. So if you go to astronomy.com, on our front page, you can find a project of the week that SciStarter helps us get out to people. And you can find all kinds of different things. Right now, there's one about SETI, about searching for life outside of our planet. There's been ones on hunting for aurora. There's all kinds of different ways to get involved. So every week you can stop by astronomy.com and find a project to check out.
Okay, and this is not in our script, Korey, but I'm curious to know how you came to love astronomy.
Oh man, I came to love astronomy through big science. I was a giant sci-fi fan, and I thought that science was the coolest way to observe the world. I love looking up at the stars. I love using physics to explain stuff, and so. But a lot of it was science fiction. A lot of it was seeing my heroes being scientists out there. You know, Spock was a scientist. That was great for me. I wanted to do that. That was my hero.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So are we passing it back to Waleed right now?
I'm good. I do want to make sure we capture our final international guest. We have from Barcelona, Spain. It's Perello, I assume. Is that right? Perello?
Yes, Perello.
Perello. Okay, and now we've got the Canadian Arctic, we've got Australia, we've got the Eastern U.S., the Western U.S., and everywhere in between. Now let's go to Europe. Tell us about your activity.
Okay. Yeah, so something that it makes us a little bit different is that, first of all, like 3 years ago, what we did is just to reinforce citizens' practices, but through the city council. So the city council, through cultural activities, were thinking how to promote citizens' practices through museums, through science festivals, through many other cultural activities that might happen inside the city. Okay, and thanks to that, many projects just emerged, as Jessie was mentioning. That there were many nice cases that were just hidden, or they even themselves they didn't mention or say that they were city science projects. So at that moment, it's just an explosion of city science practices and activities and even projects that are just right now playing with this system to have a mutual learning, to experiment and to learn each other. and just to look for the right spaces to do citizen science in Barcelona, in a city.
So it sounds like there's kind of a common theme throughout this that this almost wants to happen, that people are poised to contribute, to engage, and that there's a lot of excitement around it. Is that what you've been finding in your activities?
Yeah, that's one thing. And also, I think that also Europe is a little bit different from States or from even from Australia. Also, when you are talking about cities, okay, so cities they have generally they have a different profile, and especially here, at least in Spain. So social activity is a little bit different, and there is also other interests, other motivations that might be much closer to civic actions, to some things that are happening in my own neighborhood. And with that, also being a citizen scientist, I'm also very happy to say that we are running citizen science using or within the field of economics or social science or human behavior, which is not the general trend around the world. And it's really hard to find nice experiences that are trying to find out new human traits or improve social welfare with the citizens, and running collective experiments that might raise climate change action, for instance, in Barcelona.
Well, I think that's fantastic. We've talked a lot about sort of the physical domain or the ecological aspects of citizen science, and here you're really talking also about expanding that to the social domain. And I think just as sort of engagement directly with the world around us, whether it's Smartfin or whether it's counting birds, every bit as important as the meaning derived from engaging in the social domain. So I'm delighted to see it, and I think these activities the world over, I think we can all get together 5 years from now and really appreciate all that's been achieved since then, and look forward to beyond that. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Darlene.
Thanks, Waleed. Hi, Joseph. Nice to see you. And I'm here with Jennifer Shirk from the Citizen Science Association, and we are going to talk about Citizen Science Day, the field of citizen science, all the exciting things happening with the federal agencies and so forth. So welcome, Jennifer.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Darlene.
Tell us a little bit about Citizen Science Day.
Citizen Science Day is the first time that the Citizen Science Association has had the chance to celebrate the excellence and significance of citizen science with a broad public audience, and we're just thrilled to know that so many people are thinking and talking about citizen science today in so many different disciplines in different ways.
Do you have a favorite event that is taking place today, by any chance?
Well, there's such a range, and I'll just say that I'm really glad that we've been able to work with SciStarter and with the Federal Community of Practice and so many other partners to be able to get the word out about everything from a biodiversity challenge between the city of Los Angeles and the city of San Francisco to a symposium that's happening at Duke University about the different types of citizen science projects that people can get involved in, the ways that citizen science works. So just a real range of activities and events for everybody from professionals who are leading projects to a first-timer just looking to get engaged and try it out.
Well, I was going to put a plug in as well for the LA, San Francisco, or LA Bay Area BioBlitz competition that I think is happening today. Is that right?
That's right. It started yesterday, and they're wrapping up, I think, midday today.
You can follow along if you look at Twitter on #CitSciDay. You can see some of these fun and friendly, competitive citizen science events taking place. So Jennifer, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the Citizen Science Association, developments, and what's happening next.
Sure. We are a young nonprofit that is working to support excellence in citizen science, raise the profile of the value and significance of citizen science, and support the people who are running and managing those projects. Some of the things that we actively have underway are biannual conferences. We have a journal coming out that is Citizen Science Theory and Practice, and it's a place where people can publish articles about how citizen science works and what to do to make it work better. We also have a brand new website online that we're looking to build out and populate over the next year. It's citizenscience.org, and you can find more about the association there.
And speaking of the federal community of practice and all the ways that the federal agencies are supporting citizen science, here's our logo. And then here are a very small list of some of the federal agencies involved in citizen science here at the USA Science and Engineering Festival. And in fact here, this is a little passport flyer. People are encouraged to go to each one of these sites, experience one of their citizen science projects, get stamps, and then win a prize. So yeah, it's all the rage.
And I will say that the Citizen Science Day event really was inspired by the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. We're really pleased to have been able to take up that idea and get the word out there so broadly. It's amazing the reach that this event has had.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this, but there are hundreds of events taking place starting today, kind of kicking off events in celebration of Citizen Science Day, running through the end of May. I think it's May 21st. With a lot of bio blitzes taking place with the National Park Service and Nat Geo and so forth. So no shortage of opportunities to jump in. You can go to citizenscienceday.org. Is that right?
That's right. Citizenscienceday.org or citsciday.org. Either one will tell you more.
Excellent. We may be going back to Waleed for closing.
Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate the involvement of everybody in this hangout. It's been great hearing about the different activities and enthusiasm around it. It looks, Darlene, like there's a lot of buzz behind you. I think there's a lot of participation, it seems, at the event itself. So this is really just the beginning of a year-long series of social media responses via Twitter and Facebook. So we invite everyone who's watching or participating to interact with us, share your ideas, your experiences, ask your questions. This really is a whole world and a whole new dimension of science and citizenship, and appreciate the involvement of everyone. Next month is Asthma Awareness Month, and we're going to dive deeper into the West Oakland project, but also look at some innovative techniques helping patients, doctors, and public health professionals in Louisville, Kentucky. Techniques and technologies, I should say. And if all goes well, we hope to be live from Nepal to check on how citizen science meets Sherpa science and Ulyana's activities there. So thank you for joining us. For the crowd in the cloud, I'm Waleed Abdalati, but the conversations continue online at #SitSciDay. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.